So hello everyone, today in this video we'll be discussing on what is CPU benchmarking. So let's get started. So before we begin, why do we need CPU benchmarking? So the CPU benchmarking mainly focuses on how the CPU performs. So we will know on the performance of the CPU, how it is working, and we can also monitor the improvement and what are the areas we need to perform the improvement in the CPU. And other areas what we can also see is we can also see in the technological advancement. It can be like improving the number of cores in the system, or it can be like improving the number of logical logical transistors, anything. So basically why do we need do benchmarking is to check the performance and to compare between various CPUs and to know how they are performing with each other. So when it comes to the types of CPU benchmarking, we mainly have something like synthetic and real world benchmarks. So let's take a look on the synthetic. So synthetic benchmarks are designed to examine specific aspects of CPU performance under controlled conditions. So you can consider this is something like a lab environment where you are performing some kind of test. And when it comes to the real world benchmarks, so real world benchmarks replicate actual computing tasks to evaluate CPU performance as it would affect everyday users. So example, you can see there are like multiple processor brands. You can something take like an Exynos or a Snapdragon. So you can take the Snapdragon 888 as a processor. So when you perform it under a lab condition, you might getting a higher benchmarking score or higher efficiency. So that is the benchmark what you perform in the lab. And the real world benchmarking happens when a user has a smartphone that is equipped with the same Snapdragon 888 processor and he runs a benchmark. So the benchmark which you get in the lab environment might be higher than the real world benchmark. So that is why we also need to compare, need to have the lab test and benchmark in the real world, because we can understand what are the differences and how the CPU is performing in the real world and the lab environment, so that the companies can make certain improvements to the processor for it to perform well. So when it comes to the synthetic benchmarks, we have like something like a graphics and gaming, and we have a processor speed. So when it comes to benchmarks, we commonly compare the GPU speeds and the CPU speeds. So when it comes to GPU, like you can perform if you are getting a good benchmark in a CPU, so you can perform your daily activities without any problems. But even having a good GPU is important. So what it does is having a good GPU helps you in improving your gaming performance. It helps you in providing a higher FPS, higher frame rates, and better ray tracing or HDR capabilities. So all these can be unlocked only if the processor supports and if your processor has a better graphics performance, and having a good graphic benchmark is very much important if you want to do heavy gaming. And it's not only in gaming thing, having a good GPU also helps you in rendering the videos very fast and editing your photos or videos very much fastly. And even nowadays you can consider like GPUs are playing a very much major role in making the AI models or training the AI LLMs. So and we have the real world benchmarks. So real world benchmarks are mostly used for like application testing and multitasking efficiency. Yeah, that is true. As you can see, some of the real world benchmarking apps like Antutu or Geekbench, what they're mainly focusing on running some applications. So they run some applications on your phone and they give the output like how this application is performing. So basically they calculate the time, how time in the sense you provide some kind of processor a task to the your processor, and the benchmarking app will calculate how fast this app or the task was completed. So this is how the application testing happens, and even how the multitasking happens. So multitasking is similar, like your benchmarking app throws multiple benchmarking processes, so that even it calculates the time. So like in what time or what duration or how fast did your CPU perform. So based on these results, the CPU app, the benchmarking app will give you a benchmarking score. So now let's take a look on the factors affecting the CPU benchmarking results. So it can be like thermal performance. Yeah, if you need to have a good heat dissipation in your smartphones or your laptops, so increasing the temperature can cause your CPU to throttle a lot and decrease in the benchmarking score. and even overclocking. So even extreme overclocking can help you increase your CPU performance, but in turn it results in a lot of heating issues, and some CPUs might even fail during your benchmarking test when you do overclocking. So and even the RAM speed, so which might be an underrated factor, but your RAM speed is a must to know that how your performance, how are you getting your performance. So having a good RAM means you can have a faster communication between your smartphones or your devices, so in turn it gives a good benchmarking score. So we can say, like, if you are running a smartphone, it's good to have something like LPDDR4X or LPDDR5 RAM, so which are the recent technologies according to 2024. So and this should provide a very much decent benchmarking score what you want. So now let's see interpreting CPU benchmarking results. So we have the comparative analysis, understanding usage, and macro and micro benchmarks. So compare results with the similar CPUs to understand the relative performance of a tested processor, that is the comparative analysis, and understanding usage. So you cannot use all like heavy performance processor for a basic task, right? So even to find out that processor is performing very fast or is a high performance or is it consuming more power, so you need a benchmarking tool. So with this benchmarking tool you can know that how much power is it consuming, is it a very hardcore or a very weak processor. So that is how the benchmarking tools helps us understand the usage. And we have something like a macro or micro benchmark. So utilizing the both macro overall system and micro is an individual CPU. So nothing but in short we can take like micro. So you have something like a 8 or 7 core CPU, 8 cores or 10 cores CPU let it be. So if you are checking for individual cores of your CPU, so you can perform something like a micro benchmark, and if you are performing a overall benchmark of your system, then you can go with macro benchmarks. So conclusion on the future of CPU benchmarks. So evolution of testing methods. So we can anticipate more comprehensive testing methods to align with the technological advancement in the CPU industry. And we can also perform something like AI based benchmarks, so which has become one of the most trending things nowadays as of 2024. So as you even know that AI has been the one of the most booming and one of the most popular fields now. And even we have the enhanced portability. Benchmarking tools and processes will become more versatile and portable to facilitate testing on various devices and platforms. So that's it guys, that's it for the video. Thank you.